I see about 70 plus students on in the participants list. So I hope a few more will join. Today's session, as we know, is from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. only for today. From tomorrow again, it's the morning slot from 10 to 12. All right. So we start the session with two chefs who are not going to talk about culinary or kitchen. They're going to talk. May I request everybody to mute, please? Soham Sakankar. Can you mute yourself, please? All the students, once please check. Okay, so I've muted everybody. All right. Um, Fine. So as I was saying, today we start with two faculty members who are chefs in their own right, but they're not going to talk about culinary. First speaker for the day is Dr. Arun Sherkar. He's going to take you, he's the head of academics. So he's going to take you primarily through what academics is and what's going to be your academic journey in the next 3 years that you're with the college. That session will be followed by another colleague, Mr. Sundar Srinivasan. Sundar sir will take you through Microsoft Teams and technology. And he's also made a short video for you all, specially to help you log in and a smooth onboarding on Microsoft Teams. Because as you know, you will be working with
We lost your audio, Samir.
So you are attending some sessions online to start with before the next directive. So without much ado, I'm handing over to Dr. Arun Sherkar, and that will be followed by Arun. You can then hand over to Sundar. Yeah.
Yes, surely.
Thank you, and have a wonderful session.
Thank you, Samir. Just to add to Samir, though I'm the head of academics, but also I'll be teaching one of them, one of the classes.
Oh, you're teaching first
kitchen.
years. Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
The chef's role
Yes.
will be on once they join college, or the online classes will be on.
So you will see that he wears
yes. So let's
many
start
hats,
now.
and he'll show you his chef hat when you join college.
Yeah, surely. I'll just share the screen. So let's start with the academic induction for first SEC. Sorry.
Your voice is echoing, sir, again.
Okay, it's echoing. Just a minute.
And if you can go on the slideshow mode.
Echo हो रहा है. What do we do?
Now I think we can hear you better. Talk.
It's better now.
Once you've muted the mic, I think we can hear you better. Maybe there's
Is it better now?
No, it's echoing, sir.
Oh no, again.
Could you speak a few lines then?
Arun, try using the telephone mobile wireless handfree, no? Or wired handfree.
Pranali has raised her hand. Pranali, you have a question already?
अंदाजा इकडे आहे रे. चॅटच्या खाली चुकून मी लोअर हँडचे क्लिक केलं तर लोअर हँड आला यार. काय करू याचं घालू कसं? त्यांना मग दिसत होतं वांदे
Students,
होतील.
please mute yourself.
काय नाही करता येत त्याला. नाही.
Dear students, please hold your horses. We have a little technical issue, so give us a couple of minutes and we'll start the session. Yeah. Thank you for your patience.
Sir, am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm getting Arun sir online. He'll be there in a moment.
Okay. Can you hear me, guys? Good afternoon, everybody.
Good
Yes,
afternoon,
it's
sir.
clear.
Yes, we can hear.
Yeah. Thank you. So quickly, let's get into the academic process of understanding how once you join college, how your entire 6 semesters and 3 years are going to be. So moving on to the first slide, where it talks about your BSc program, which is a semester pattern, and a total of 6 semesters that you need to go through to complete this BSc course. The 4th semester would be your industrial training, in which you will be put through a hotel and you will attend the training in the hotel for 20 weeks. The final year, that's the 3rd year, and the 6th semester, the last semester, would be specialization, where you will choose electives like food production, F&B service, and accommodations. Also, during the entire 6 semesters, barring the 4th, that is the industrial training, you will have electives in the given pattern or even in the semester. For example, you can have environmental science and principles of management, so you have to choose one. So as and when you get into the semesters, each semester, my team or I myself would come and tell you exactly what is to be done and how the subjects are to be chosen. Okay. The next part is the 8 credits. That is what you need to go through to complete your degree of 3 years. That is a total of 132 credits is what is given by the university. Over and above that, 8 credits is what you need to go through to complete the graduation. If in any case, if you don't complete those 8 credits, you will not be awarded the degree. Moving ahead, all these classes as of now, due to the pandemic, as you know, the classes will be conducted online, and that will be done through Microsoft Teams. So for that also, we have a small video for you at the end of this session, and we'll tell you exactly how to log in and get into the details. Now, since it is a course under the science faculty, there is something known as a bridge course that you need to go through. This is applied only for students from commerce, arts, and MCVC, bakery, cookery, travel and tourism. Okay, so this is only for these students. Students from science faculty will not be appearing for the bridge course. Fair enough? Now, what all do you need to complete under the bridge courses? Subjects like physics, chemistry, biology, geography. Need not get scared about it. It is a simple program where the teachers will teach you. Each subject will be conducted for 20 hours, and it is a grading system. You have to submit assignments and a grade will be awarded to you. And on completion of this only will you get into the first semester to start with. Okay. The next important thing that once you'll join, or now since you all will be online, class coordinators will be allotted to you. Now, what is the role of the class coordinator? They act as mentors to you. They help you in understanding any problems that you have in the subject. If you are facing any difficulty in understanding a particular subject, or for example, say F&B service, or for housekeeping, or an allied subject, or something like accounts or business law, if something like that is not understood by you, you can always approach the coordinator stating that we have an issue in the understanding, and further on, we'll take care of it. Now, these coordinators also help in counseling for personal issues and also as professional. For professional counseling, a few serious issues, we have a professional counselor who comes into the college, and we can take you to that professional counselor. So need not worry on this as well. Now, how do you avail leaves in this college? Is, for example, you have a medical emergency. You've met with an accident or you're ill and you cannot attend college. So you need to be informing the coordinator that you are ill and you will not be attending college for the next week, next 5 days, or so on and so forth. Now, if it is something serious, obviously your parents can call the coordinators and inform them. And If it is a smaller thing like a sick leave for say a viral fever or something, and for 2-3 days you've not come, need not inform, but a medical certificate has to be mailed to the coordinator to inform them that this is the reason you were not there for the last 3 days or 4 days or whatever the amount of days you were not present. I'll tell you why this is important ahead. Now the attendance, how is it calculated, and how the medical leave also will be added up into this. Now the attendance, regularly, once you start attending classes, we download the attendance. Since it is online now, we can download the attendance. Also, we mark them on a hard copy, present and absent. End of the month, we total up the attendance, checking how many of them are below 75% attendance. Okay. Now this is mandatory by the University of Pune. That's the Savitribai Phule Pune University. So anybody falling short of 75 at the end of the semester will not be allowed for the exams. Okay, let me make that clear, and I'll repeat. Anybody below 75% attendance will not be allowed for sitting for the final university examinations. Each month, the attendance is totaled up, and those who are below 75 will be informed, or the parents will be informed by a message. Okay. Less than 75% is what I've spoken about. Keep the coordinators in the loop is what I've already spoken to you. Okay. In a case of emergency, like I said, for a medical leave, fair enough. In this, if you've informed and the medical is valid, we will give you those many days of percentage added into the final totaling up that we have done. Okay. Is this point clear with you? Is this point clear with everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, how is this calculated? Now, there is something known as the ERP. Obviously, all of you are aware of this, through which you'll have done your admission process. Okay. Now, I hand over the proceedings to Sundar sir, who will tell you exactly how the ERP system works and the Microsoft Teams works. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Chef Sundar Srinivasan, and I look, although not a very technical guy, but look into all these details of ERP and Microsoft Teams. Now, as sir told you something about ERP or Enterprise Resource Planning, your attendance will be monitored through that. Of course, once you get your login IDs and passwords, you will be able to go into your account and you will be able to see your attendance. Hopefully, I'm able to comply to that as soon as possible. Even parents can have a look at their student's account. They'll be able to see where their ward stands with his or her attendance for the particular period when the classes have been conducted. So based on this record on our ERP, the further details, as Dr. Arun Sherkar mentioned, that messages will be sent to parents and they need to be in touch with the coordinator for the further process of attendance. Moving ahead, we'll be having Microsoft Teams that will be operated for students, online classes basically. So of course, I'm going to first quickly put a small video and then I'll just briefly explain to you about the same.
Hello students, welcome to AISSMS, College of Hotel Management and Catering Technology, Pune. This video is a step-by-step guide for the students on the operation of Microsoft Teams. Step 1, you would be going through your laptop, PC or mobile phone. Microsoft Teams can be loaded on any of these devices, but first, you would have to uninstall any of the previous Microsoft Teams that have been uploaded on your system. Step 2. You would have to go to portal.office.com. Once you go over here, you would have to log in with the credentials that will be provided to you by your class coordinator. Once you log in, you would put your password. As soon as you put your password, on step 3, you would have to change the password as soon as you log in for the first time. You may also be asked for your email and phone number. Please do put these details. They may be required in case you forget your password. Step 4, you would see the download part. You would have to go to aka.ms/getteams, aka.ms/getteams. As soon as you go on this website, you would be asked to switch over to India-English. Please click on the tab and proceed to the next page, which would say Download Microsoft Teams. You have an option over here. For your desktop, you can click Download for Desktop. For mobile phones, you could go to the Play Store or the Apple Store and download Microsoft Teams app from there itself. Step 5, you would have to download and install the MS Teams. On your desktop or your laptop, in the Downloads folder, you would find this icon saying Teams_Windows. Please run this application. Whereas on your mobile phones, it would automatically install the app. Step 6, you have to log in again here with the credentials that you used earlier for portal.office.com. The same login ID and password needs to be put over here. Once you put this, you would be brought to the page of your own account. We would now see the student view of MS Teams. So this would be the page of your account. In this page, you would see either FYBSc 1 or FYBSc 2, whichever class you are in. As the faculties prepare their subjects, you would see the various subjects getting added in this space. This is an example of a subject added over here. Within the subject, you would find various chapters that have been added by the faculty members, and against each you would find various classes that have been scheduled under each class session. On the left side, you have various icons. Activities will give you information that is being passed or updated by the faculty. It will keep adding as and when new messages are added. It will also give you information if any assignment has been provided for you. You can also use the chat option to chat with each other or with the faculty, or also regarding any particular chapter or assignment. The assignment tab will tell you if you have been assigned any assignment that needs to be done. The Teams icon that is over here will be used for going into various chapters. You have to click it twice so that you come back to the original page. The important part over here is the calendar. Once you click on the calendar, you would observe that various classes that have been scheduled by the faculty members is available in the calendar. You need to click the calendar schedule. You would have the join option. You need to click on join and join the class session along with your fellow classmates and faculty members. You also have options of using various other apps that has been provided by Microsoft. Once you go on portal.office.com, you can avail facilities of various applications of Microsoft. This would help you in various activities. Thank you all students and happy learning.
All right. This is just a small video for all of y'all. And going ahead, this video will be shared with the class students once they begin the session. In fact, we will also have an online training session wherein all their problems and issues will be discussed so that they have a smooth flow during their class sessions. So from me, I'm signing out right now. Thank you so much. Good day to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sundar. Thank you, Arun. So we have our next speaker today. Our next session is going to be by the examinations HOD, Dr. Rasika Gumaste. So let's begin that session in a couple of minutes. In the meanwhile, if you have any other questions, you can either unmute yourself or you can type it in the chat box. Rasika, are you there? I can see you've logged on through Hemraj's screen. Yeah.
Samir, I'm here.
Yeah.
I hope we have enough time to go through all the committees.
Yes, we do. It's 2:30 exactly.
Yeah.
So we are starting on time with your session. Only at Dr. Tony will join only by 3 o'clock. Yeah.
All right.
So I request you to just go a little closer to the mic and speak a little more loud.
Can you hear me now clearly?
Yes, it's nice and clear. So over to Dr. Rasika Gumaste. She'll tell you about the examination department that she heads, and she's also a faculty for accommodation. So she'll tell you a little about that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Samir. Hi, guys. How are you all doing? Yeah, can I hear something from the other side? How are you all?
Fine, ma'am.
Maybe they
Fine,
can.
ma'am.
Good, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
Great.
I'm good, ma'am.
Nice, ma'am. Nice, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I could hear you. Yeah. So we're going to start with the most crucial department after academics, which is the examination department. I'm Dr. Rasika Gumaste. I'm the college examination officer, and I'll take you through the various rules and regulations regarding the examinations, which are prescribed by the University of Pune, which is the SPPU University. Okay, we call it as SPPU. And I will briefly just go through the presentation, and I would like to introduce you all to my team members. Yeah. So there's a lot of hard work which goes into getting a merit in the college. I'm sure you all are aware of it. You all have just finished your 12th exams and put in hard work, and you have joined our college, which is one of the best colleges in India. All right. So success doesn't come to you. You need to go and get it. So AISSMS has a history of meritorious students. We have had many students who have topped in universities, and I hope you all will continue the lineage. Okay. Okay. This is my team. Miss Reena and Dr. Honey are part of the external examination. And we have Dr. Kiran, who is in charge for the internal examinations. And Mr. Rahul and Mohini are also part of the internal exam team. Okay. Okay, let's talk about the examination department now. The institute follows the guidelines prescribed by the SPPU for conducting the external university theory and practical examinations. The details are mentioned in the curriculum. Okay, now I will not go into much details now because you will get a little confused. I will just talk about what is compulsory or what is necessary for the first year. Okay, what is applicable to you in the first year. Now you all belong to the 2019 pattern, BSc HS. Okay, there are many batches, but you need to remember that you belong to the 2019 pattern. Okay, the rules are slightly different for different batches. So we have external exam, which is a exam which is conducted by the university, which is a theory as well as practical exams. In the practical exams, you will have external people coming in and evaluating you. And you have something called as internal evaluation or continuous assessment. So the internal evaluation is based on unit test, assignments, and continuous assessment for practicals and internal practical exam. Now I will tell you exactly what it is. Unit test would be about 2 unit tests we conduct, and then we take an average. Now it depends on year to year, or depends on the syllabus, that how many unit tests would we conduct and how would we average it out. But this is a general rule. We usually take 2 unit tests and we take the best out of it. Then we have 2 or 3 assignments which are based on the subject, theory subjects, which are given by the teachers, and you're supposed to submit those assignments within the designated date which is given by the teachers. Okay, so these are important. Submissions on time is extremely important for you all to get good marks in internal exams. Okay, continuous assessment for practicals is a what do you say, it's like I'm sure you all are aware of continuous assessment in the schools also. So every practical that you attend, you will be assessed for that particular practical. For example, 5 marks if I give you for today, so there would be some marks which are assigned for attendance, and some marks are assigned for what you do, your skill, or the way you conduct the activity which is given to you. Okay, that is a continuous assessment. And at the end of the semester, we will average out all the marks for your continuous assessment, and those marks will be assigned as for the practicals. Now internal practical exam is something which we called as a mock exam. What we do is we try to carry out all the activities, or we mark you on different parameters, and we try to do exactly what we would be doing in the external exam. Okay, so it is like a practice session for you for the external exam. Okay, that we call as a mock practical. We call is an internal practical exam, which is before the actual theory practicals. Okay, so it's like a practice session for you. So all these marks are taken into consideration. There are definite marks given to each of it. I'll not go into that much details, but these particular parameters are extremely important. So please adhere to the dates which are given by your teachers for the assignments or any other submissions which are asked by the teachers. Now, your pattern, which is a FY BSc 2019 pattern, is a semester pattern where the student has to earn minimum 70% of the total credits to go to the next year. Okay, now yours is a credit based system where we have each subject has some credits. Okay, and there are particular credits which you need to earn in each semester, or rather year, to go to the next year. Okay, so for you all it is about 31 credits which you need to earn in your first and semester together to go to the second year. Okay, so there are many such rules, but as and when we go ahead, we will explain it to you. The committee, the examination committee usually will come and talk to you in your classes. So please remember that there are minimum credits which you need to earn in every year to move to the next year, right? We also have an examination committee, who is a very active committee, which is appointed as a link between the students and the examination department of the institute. There are some meritorious students usually who are part of our committee, who go to the classes and talk to the students regarding the importance of examination or any other help which they need, or if they have ATKTs, how do they go ahead. And of course, my faculty team is there to guide you all the time. So the committee has faculty and students who carry out an orientation regarding the examination. They clarify the rules for ATKT, and they stress upon the importance of exams. It also handles the overall examination functions. Any complaints regarding the examination are addressed as per the stipulated norms of SPPU by the committee. Okay, the norms which we need to adhere to are very clearly explained in the manuals by the SPPU, and we need to adhere to those norms. Now let's move to the other committees. Yeah, just hold on 2 minutes. Yes. Two minutes. Let me just. So there are various committees in the college, and they have very specific functions. They basically help in the admin work or a smooth running of the admin and the academics departments. Usually the committees are formed where we have some faculties, some external members, and students who perform the various activities towards the committees. And the whole purpose is to, well-being of the students or welfare of the students and the institute. Okay, the first committee which we would talk about is the grievance redressal committee or the complaint cell. Okay, I will also briefly tell you who is in charge for the various committees. Now, all the committees are headed by our principal, Dr. Sonali Jadhav. She is the chairman, and there is usually one in charge faculty who takes care of the particular committee. Okay, the first committee which we're going to talk about is the complaint cell or the grievance redressal committee. Any grievances or any complaints that you have related to college, you can actually come and talk to this committee. Okay, so a grievance is a formal complaint raised by a student related to any college issue. This is very specific that the issue has to be related to the college and it has to be a formal complaint. Okay, so probably you will be asked to give a written complaint about a particular issue which you have. That's a formal complaint. Okay, the institute has an online portal where any aggrieved student may submit an application seeking redressal of the grievance. There are some committees which head the institutes. They're called as AICT committees or UGC committees, which are at a higher level, who have put up an online portal wherein any student who wants to complain can go to the website and complain regarding any issue which he has. Okay. The cell aims at addressing and effectively resolving grievances of the student. The regulations related to the grievance redressal cell are available on the AICTE web portal. Okay. In case you want to know the details, you can go and have a look at the portal. Now, this is very important. A link for the complaint cell is available on the AISSMS CHMCT College website. If you go to the quick links on the website, you will see that there is a link for grievance redressal. Okay. In case you are not comfortable talking to the faculty, you can put up a written thing through this link, which is available. It will go to the principal and it will also come to me, and accordingly we will address the issue. Okay, so this is about the complaint cell. We move to the next. The next cell is women's grievance cell. Okay, as the name suggests, we have again Mr. Sonali Jadhav, who is the in charge for the or who heads the committee, and the in charge faculty is Meola Dias. Okay, for the grievance cell, the in charge faculty was myself, Rasika Gumaste. Okay, so if any of the girls have any complaints, they can directly approach the faculty who is in charge. All right. So college has formulated a women's grievance cell to address issues related to women employees and students. A committee has been constituted to carry out the responsibilities of the Women's Grievance Cell. Now, there are some very important terms which we need to consider when we are talking about Women's Grievance Cell. We need to understand what could be a grievance which may turn into a woman's grievance. Sexual harassment is something which is very commonly used, and you need to understand what it means. So it is defined as any unwelcome words or actions of sexual nature. Okay. Now, what are the objectives of the cell? The objectives are basically to resolve issues related to women's grievances, equip the female students with knowledge of their legal rights, safeguarding the rights of female students, also incorporating hygiene habits and ensure a healthy atmosphere in and around the college. The cell is responsible for looking into any complaints filed by female students and staff under women's grievances in the college. The next committee which we're going to talk about is the anti-ragging committee. This is also a very important committee, and you have a very active role in the sense you need to carry out some formalities before you actually join the college. Usually this is done immediately after you finish your admission process and you come to the college. We make you fill up this form, but since the scenario is different this year, probably you will be asked by the coordinators to fill up these forms and submit it to them. So please do it whenever it is being asked by the coordinators. Now, ragging is something which has been happening and which we have tried to curb down, or which we try to eradicate totally, and we've been successful to quite an extent. Okay, so if you need to define ragging is defined as a force, or rather ragging is defined as forcing a student to perform some action against his or her will. It could be physical violence against student or any such similar activity. Okay, so as per the directives from the university, to prevent the ragging activities in the college, a anti-ragging committee is formed, and it is a mandatory thing. The anti-ragging squad is highly vigilant and have frequent checks and rounds in the campus. You will see that this squad is composed of the faculties, the non-teaching staff, the admin staff. Okay, so they're quite vigilant, and they do this spot checks and to see to it that the environment is maintained, or the decorum is maintained. Okay, remember, strict action will be taken against students found guilty or abating ragging. Okay, now this is important, please listen to it carefully. It is mandatory for the parents and students to give an undertaking or affidavit related to anti-ragging after taking admission in the college, which I told you. The students are supposed to go to the website amanmovement.org or antiragging.in through their official email account to register and further fill the undertaking. Now, this will be again reminded to you by the coordinators. So you will have to fill the form or the affidavit, take a print of it. Your signatures and parent signatures will be put on it, and probably you will scan it to your coordinators. Okay. So the process of filling affidavit is done in every academic year and submitted to the class coordinator or the anti-ragging cell. So it is not only that you would be doing it in your first year, but every year you will give that affidavit to us. The college has zero tolerance towards ragging. The third cell which we have, or the third committee, is the cyber cell. The in charge faculty is Mr. Sundar Srinivasan. So the cyber crime cell makes the staff and students aware about the various methods and the types of cyber crimes happening in today's world. And they also share some tips on how to prevent such crime activities rather. Usually a session is conducted by the committee for the first year students during the semester. There is a cell called as a reservation cell, who is headed by the principal, and the in charge faculty is Dr. Arun Sherkar. Now, what does this cell do? Or what are the objectives? To implement the reservation policy of the government for the welfare of reserve category candidates. It also helps in improving the status of reserve category students socially, educationally, so that they can take their rightful place in the mainstream of the society, and to implement the scholarship policy for the students. So all of the policies or the scholarship policies which are granted through Shikshan Shulk, the committee is in charge for the granting of the scholarships. Next, we have Media Committee, which is headed by the principal again, and the in charge faculty is Ms. Prachi Wani. The Media Committee is appointed to make sure the college is active on the various social medias, social media websites like Instagram, Facebook, etc. And basically, it helps in creating videos and publishing various college events on social media. So any of you who are good with branding work, or such kind of work, probably you can be absorbed in such a committee. They also organize online events to increase the online engagements of the students. The next committee which we're going to talk about is the Library Committee. So it is a team of faculty and students. Our librarian is Ms. Bindu Singh, who is in charge for the library. The committee works with an objective to promote reading habits among the students. It also organizes book review competitions, book talks, orientation programs for the students to introduce the library resources, quiz, and other reading activities. The next committee is the Training and Placement Committee. The in charge faculties are Dr. Samir Devanji and Ms. Sarika Zoshi. The Training and Placement Committee is a committee to provide hands-on experience for students who are passing out. They get an opportunity to interact with the industry professionals, and they also help the Training and Placement Department by coordinating the activities carried out for the students. The next committee is the NSS, National Service Scheme Committee. Now, let me tell you, when you work for this committee, or when you, for example, you work for you representing a college for any particular sports, you get some extra credits, and these extra credits are added to your mark sheet. Okay, so active participation in NSS or representing the college in sports or any other events which are university organized will give you extra credits. And with your pattern, the credits are necessary. You need to earn 8 credits out of these various groups which are mentioned, which we will talk about later. Okay, so the in charge faculty is Mr. Manoj Suryavanshi. The NSS has been playing a very vital role in enriching the souls and minds of the students of the university since a long time. It is a very, very active committee. The overall objective is education and service to the community. It is a program for students to cater to the needs of the community, basically, as and when required. I can give you an example. During the pandemic, our students played a very active role in serving the society. And we're very proud of this thing. They represented through the university. They usually visit the rural areas as NSS volunteers during the camps organized by the college. It also organizes various activities like cleanliness drives, blood donation camps, tree plantation, etc. The goal is to strive to inculcate the bond of patriotism, national integration among the volunteers. It also plays an important role in building the personality of the student. The next committee which we are going to talk about is the Disciplinary Committee. The in charge faculty is Ms. Rajeshri Paul. Since you're not in the college, otherwise you would have experienced how the committee works. It's a committee of faculty and students appointed to have a control over the code of conduct, the discipline, and the attire of the students in and around the campus. We are extremely strict with the grooming standards, you know, the way you conduct yourself, speaking in English in the campus. So these things are very mandatory for us as a college, and we see to it that the student practice what is being told to them. The next is the course monitoring committee, which is part of the academics department. I think Arun must have spoken about it, but I'll just briefly tell you. It's a committee appointed for the updates from the students for the academic purpose, which provides feedback on classroom teaching and learning. Now, if you have a difficulty in learning, or if you don't understand what is being taught in the class by the teacher, you can convey it through your class coordinators or through your class representatives to this committee, and then accordingly action will be taken. So compliance is done by the subject teacher, and if there are any grievances, you can talk to this committee. Sports committee, the in charge faculty is Mr. Suraj Mashilkar. The students participate in university organized intra-collegiate matches or sports events. The sports committee actively participates in organizing matches both indoor and outdoor. They arrange annual sports week, which concludes in a sports day for the entire college. Let me tell you, we have our teaching, non-teaching faculties who also participate in the sports day. So most of the students are waiting for this event, which usually happens in the month of February. The next committee is the alumni committee. The in charge faculty is Mr. Shailendra Darekar. The institute has a strong alumni presence across the globe, and they stay connected through our dedicated alumni portal. It plays an active role in placements, arranging guest lectures, and entrepreneurship cell. This is something little interesting for you all. Probably not in the first year, but when you go to the third year, there's a student council which is appointed by the SVPU, and the students are appointed for various posts like the general secretary post, cultural secretary, sports secretary, girls representative posts. There are some basic norms which you need to fulfill to do the representation at this various levels. There are university guidelines which considering all the rules and regulations to represent the students or various levels. You can represent the college at the university levels through these various posts. There are some more committees. I'm sure you all are tired now. There's something called as IQAC, which has student representation. Then CDC, which is a college development committee, which also has student representation. Now the IQAC is related to the quality management, and CDC, which is a college development committee, has various aspects in which the students also, we have one student representative who put up the student side in the committees. So I think with this, we finish with all the committees. I think we are in time. Yes, there are 5 minutes still left. Okay. Thank you very much for listening to me. Have a great day. Thank you. Samir, over to you.
Thank you, Rasika.
Yeah.
We have a couple of minutes for any questions if you have for Rasika, Dr. Rasika Gumaste. Students, 1 or 2 questions we can take only. So if you have any, please unmute yourself and ask that question.
Yeah, I think Samir, you can continue. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for the session. As we move ahead to the last session for the day, Students, we know that we have a guest speaker all the way from Ireland joining. These are the wonders of technology, where borders cease to exist, and we can hear somebody from Ireland. So we have Dr. Tony Johnston, who will join us, and he will talk to you about having a career during pandemic, and he'll give you a global perspective of the hotel industry, hospitality industry at large. All right. So give us a couple of moments and minutes, and we will start with Dr. Tony Johnston's session.
Somebody, Samir has said, please explain Microsoft Team again. So was that a yes? We will explain it to you when the class starts.
Yes.
This was just a brief actually today.
Correct. So
Okay,
as Sundar sir said, that we will look at it in detail, and as you go along, you will learn. And for you, it will be very easy because you're used to so much technology and gadgets, right? So don't worry about it. Can we see Dr. Tony?
Has he joined?
No, I just messaged him.
Yes.
Yes. Hello. Yeah. May I request you to unmute yourself, Dr. Tony Johnston?
Hello. How are you?
Hello.
Hi, Tony.
Very good. We're so happy to have you on board. So may I request our principal, Dr. Sonali Jadhav, to officially welcome Dr. Tony Johnston?
Yeah, Tony, I'm really happy that you're here to address our freshers who are just joining this year, unfortunately online as of now, as we start our curriculum and as we start our semester. So we welcome you, Tony, to this first session, and the online has its advantages, and we can have people across borders coming and talking. But students, I have to tell you that Mr. Johnston is on leave and in Europe somewhere, but not working in Ireland, and yet he has been kind enough to spare some time for us and address you students. So welcome once again, Tony.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sonali. Will I begin the presentation?
She'll just do your introduction.
Yes. So may I hand it over to Ms. Chavi Sahai for a brief introduction of Dr. Tony Johnston for the benefit of students, and then we will hand over the stage to you. Is that fine?
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Over to you, Chavi.
Chavi, we can't hear you. Chavi, we can't hear you.
Chavi, say something.
No, we can't hear you. No. Maybe. No. I think, Samir, you can do the presentation. Do your introduction. Do you have?
Oh.
She's joining again.
Yes, I think so.
So we are sorry we got you during your vacation, and you.
Not at all. Not at all.
I know that's precious time.
No, delighted to join you. It's perfect.
So where are you, and how is it going?
I'm in my house at the moment in Ireland. It's going well. I'm officially back to work in a few days' time. I had a fantastic break, lots of time with family. You might know that my wife is from Poland, so we briefly went to see her family for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Been back for a few weeks now. So.
Okay. Yes, Chavi, can you? No, we can't hear you, Chavi. Samir, can you do the introduction?
I can just briefly do it. I don't have the paper in front of me or his details.
Okay.
May I request Dr. Tony Johnston to take us through his journey quickly before? Is that fine? Because I don't want to get your graduation and your various experience wrong. I know you've worked in London and you have an honors degree and all that we've read, but I don't want to.
Of course, no,
not be accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, no, delighted to.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for the invitation to speak today. I remember when I started my own degree, of course, it wasn't an online induction. It was obviously before the COVID pandemic. It's a really great day, your first day in university. So congratulations to everybody for starting off their journey this year. My name is Tony Johnston, and I'm the head of Department of Hospitality, Tourism and Leisure Studies in Athlone Institute of Technology, which is a higher education institute that's about to become a university. And we're located in the Midlands of Ireland. I've worked in Athlone Institute of Technology for the last 6 years. And prior to that, I was a lecturer in geography and in tourism in some universities in the UK, including the University of Derby and in King's College in London. I'm very interested in tourism management. My biggest passion is in a subject called dark tourism, which is about tourism to sites primarily associated with disaster. But I'm also very interested in tourism and politics and tourism and sustainability. And today I have a presentation for you which will talk a little bit about the current COVID pandemic and what it means for you and what kind of steps you can take to prepare your careers to really succeed during these very strange times. So if it's okay with everybody, I might share my screen so that a presentation comes up.
Please, yes.
Okay, so I'll share screen. Okay, Dr. Sonali, can you confirm you can see that, please?
Yes, I can see it.
Great.
Can you just enlarge it so it occupies the entire screen? Yeah.
Perfect. So my presentation is about how you should plan a career in tourism during the COVID pandemic. And what I'll do today is I'll talk a little bit about the context of tourism in the world and in society at the moment. I'll talk about why I believe the tourism industry will recover very quickly, both in India and in Ireland, but also globally. And I'll give you some tips on the kind of things I think that you should consider as you go through your journey over the next 2 or 3 or 4 years of your studies. So first of all, I think just to set some context around the scale of tourism in the world at the moment, we are one of the world's largest industries, and tourism last year employed some 330 million people. It was a very significant and growing proportion of the world's gross domestic product, with significant numbers of international arrivals. The international arrivals of tourists last year was around 1.5 billion people, and this was expected to keep growing for a number of years into the future. We've never had a situation like COVID before, though, and the COVID scenario has more or less wiped out international tourism this year. We've had closed borders. We've had countries just simply not allowing any international arrivals. I'm sure you'll have seen countries like New Zealand on the news, which effectively closed its borders to non-New Zealanders for a number of months now. Similar happened in China and even in much of Europe and also in the United States. So with these border closures, of course, mobility was really restricted, and that meant that we had lots of empty seats on airlines, and empty seats is not good for revenue or for business. So this meant that many airlines simply went bankrupt. And we've had many of the world's largest airlines come out and say that they're struggling significantly financially. So for example, the International Airline Group, which owns British Airways, the national airline of Britain. It also owns Aer Lingus, the national airline of Ireland, and Iberia from Spain. they are predicted at the moment to lose at least 16 billion euro this year, which is a really significant amount of money. Virgin Atlantic, of course, has filed for bankruptcy, and the travel agency TUI has predicted a minimum of a 2 billion euro loss this year. There's been tens of thousands of job losses in many countries. In Ireland, nearly 200,000 jobs have been lost in tourism in a very quick space of time. And as a result, with this nearly total wipeout of the tourism industry over a few months, it seems like a very strange time. But what I'm going to do today is tell you some reasons why you should be very hopeful about beginning a career in tourism now, and why it's actually the right time to start an academic journey in tourism, and a little bit about the kind of predictions I have of what will happen next. So just first of all, to illustrate the scale of the tourism industry, and this was a graph created in March this year by the World Tourism Organization, a body of the United Nations. And what you can see in the graph at the left-hand side is the number from the year 2000. So 20 years ago, we had approximately 670 million international tourists. And this had grown to 1.46 billion by last year. And it was expected to grow by another couple of percent again this year. So we've seen it grow. I mean, it's more than doubled in 20 years in that period. But what was predicted in March was that international tourism arrivals would fall back to around 1 billion. So we would lose about 6 or 7 years of growth, was the prediction. I can't find any more recent models or forecasts of what's predicted to happen this year. I think people have kind of given up on forecasting and predicting what's happening at the moment, because it's all just so complex and so strange that the figures are just not proving to be accurate when you do forecast them. But I would expect that we would be dropping back to potentially numbers more like we saw 20 years ago, not from 5 or 6 years ago. So what I have is a list of 10 reasons why I think tourism will recover despite this catastrophic collapse and this very strange time that we're in. And I'll go through the reasons one by one, and I'll explain the academic principle, and then I'll talk about some of the examples of this in action. So the first example I have is that when tourism is faced with a crisis, it always stimulates innovation. Tourism thrives on challenges, and it thrives on being faced with difficult issues to respond to. If you look over the last 20 years of growth that I showed on this previous graph, the tourism industry has faced multiple crises, which include terrorism, they've included wars, it's included global financial collapses, recessions, huge environmental shocks, such as the Asian tsunami of 2004. It's had very unusual occurrences. For example, there was a volcano in Iceland in 2010, which put a huge ash cloud over most of Europe and grounded all airlines for a period of about 3 weeks. It's had very unusual events which have caused the tourism industry to really suffer, like the SARS pandemic and the MERS pandemic, Ebola, and more recently the Zika pandemic in South America. So tourism is often faced with these crises, but every time that it's been faced with a crisis, it's responded with innovation and creativity. To give some examples of that, if you look at the little picture that you can see on the right here, you'll see some glass houses which are on the banks of the canals in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, which is of course one of the world's most visited cities. And these glass houses have been erected by one of the restaurants to allow people to dine and to eat out, but to still be able to practice social distancing and to maintain hygiene standards and distance from other people. Now, it's very strange and it's maybe not very practical for most establishments to do something like this, but it's just an example of the kind of creativity that has emerged in the last 6 months. In Ireland, we have seen restaurants become takeaways. We have seen our pub industry closed down, but reopened as restaurants instead. We have seen our cinemas closed. So instead, the industry has launched drive-through cinemas, like the old days where people would drive into a big stadium or big parking lot and watch a movie from their car. So we've seen this kind of creativity emerge, and I'm certain that there will be more of this creativity as the COVID challenge prevails. If you're in any doubt about the opportunity for creativity during a challenge, I would invite you to consider the example of the business Airbnb. Airbnb was launched during the last recession in 2008, some 12 years ago. By 2009, it barely registered on the stock market. It was not particularly well known. People didn't know this company, and it wouldn't have been considered a global player at all. Just 11 years later, that company was valued at $31 billion. And that was created during a very, very difficult time for the tourism industry, when it was really difficult to access credit, when it was very difficult to maintain staffing, and when tourists were traveling but not spending huge amounts of money. So it's very interesting to see that kind of creativity being stimulated. And similar happened for other market economy and sharing economy businesses like Uber, which was also started around the same time. Okay, the second reason I have here is about the recovery would seem to me to be already starting. Some countries have already successfully developed travel corridors where they have opened their border to other countries which have a similar pandemic status as themselves. So their judgment is that there is no higher risk in allowing people to come from another country to ours than there is from our own. And those countries have already experienced very promising early boosts in the sector. You may have seen within about 6 weeks of the Chinese economy reopening for tourism, the hotels had reached very similar capacity levels to their normal capacity throughout the year. And the reason for that was, while international travel was closed, domestic tourism was still permitted. And many of the Chinese tourists who would otherwise have traveled abroad decided to stay and to spend their money back home. And this gave a very promising early boost to the sector. In Ireland, for example, at the moment, we have almost completely closed the country to international tourism. International tourists who arrive in Ireland are currently expected to quarantine at their own expense for 2 weeks. And that means they must be inside for a 2-week period. So we have essentially closed the country to international tourists. We don't have any at the moment. However, this weekend I wanted to book a hotel, but I wasn't able to book one in the town that I wanted to go to. Every hotel was at maximum capacity because all of the Irish people that would traditionally be abroad in France or Spain or Italy have decided to stay on holiday at home. And as a result, the hotels are actually doing reasonably well. So what we can see from the situation with the pandemic is that the recovery is to some extent already starting. And for many tourists, they're beginning to learn a little bit more about their own countries, which in itself is a very good thing. It will bring some environmental benefits, and it will also bring improved knowledge of local values and heritage. The third reason that I have that I believe tourism will respond quickly is that the industry has historically shown its ability to recover. Over the last 70 years, since 1950, the tourism numbers have grown from 25 million international arrivals to 1.5 billion. 25 million to 1.5 billion. While COVID is an unprecedented situation, it's historic, it's global, and it's severe in nature, it is quite minor actually by comparison to an event like World War II. The decade after World War II, we had 25 million tourists. The decade after that, we had 75 million tourists. The numbers trebled. I wouldn't expect the numbers to treble after COVID because we are reaching a kind of a saturation point anyway, but I would certainly expect them to rebound very quickly. If you look at the range of shocks that have affected tourism in the last few decades, we've everything from war health pandemics, terrorism, environmental disasters, and financial crises. And each and every time, tourism has been the first sector to suffer, but it's also one of the first to recover. It generally recovers quicker than manufacturing and generally recovers much quicker than other areas that can be affected by their own crises, such as agriculture. So I would fully expect the industry to recover simply based on historical patterns. The next reason that tourism will recover is because of the people. And I invite you to consider the lecturers and the academics that you've met already from AISSMS, people like Dr. Sinali and Dr. Milland and Dr. Samir, and so on. All of your colleagues and your lecturers that you're meeting are highly educated people. They're hardworking and they're very innovative. And I know from my lecturers that have visited Pune, that have met the hoteliers and the transport managers and the attraction managers and so on in your great city, have very quickly seen the levels of creativity, innovation, and hard work that takes place in the sector. This is not a sector of people that is simply going to accept the crisis and do nothing about it. These people are not going to sit down and just accept it and say, we can't do anything, we won't engage, we'll just let somebody else fix the problem. These tourism professionals often enter the industry in the first place because they're creative and because they want to use tourism as an outlet for their creativity. So I congratulate all of the freshmen here today. You're creative people, and this is why you chose a career in tourism. And this creativity will benefit you as you progress through your course. And make sure you think about creative opportunities and innovative solutions to problems that you see in the sector. The next reason is that when I think about tourism, I often think about 4 words to describe tourism. It's volatile. So that means that tourism can go up and down in numbers quite rapidly. This year, we might go, for example, from 1.5 billion international arrivals to maybe a couple of 100 million. So it's very volatile. It goes up and down very rapidly. It's very exposed. So I listed all of the shocks on one of the previous slides. When any of those shocks happen, sometimes they affect all industries, but most frequently they will always affect tourism. So it's very exposed to those. For example, the current COVID crisis, tourism is very exposed to that. However, other industries such as medical device manufacturing, for example, is not exposed to that. It's actually benefiting from it. So tourism is volatile and it's exposed. But tourism is also very resilient. And that means that it has a quality built into it, which means that it will always rebound. It is used to shocks, but is very adaptable to change. So a new normal will emerge. And I'll give you an example of a new normal. About 20 years ago, less even, it was very possible to fly on airlines without being checked for your passport between every international destination. It was possible to fly with liquids. It was possible to fly with sharp objects in your bags. And it was very possible to not go through the same kind of security checks that we're used to now if we go through an airport. Then after a number of security incidents and terrorist attacks and so on, there was a shock. But the industry was very resilient, and rather than just collapse under this shock, it just adapted and a new normal has emerged. When we go through an airport, there are a set of rules. We apply those rules. Consumers seem to engage with them, and a new normal has emerged. So there is a resilience in tourism, and I expect this resilience to help recover after the pandemic. The 6th reason that I believe tourism will recover quickly is that we have 7 or 8 billion people in the world, and we have had months of an extended lockdown for a huge amount of those people that have built up a regular habit and pattern of traveling. For example, in Ireland, it would be very common for people to go to the UK for weekends. or even for short visits, sometimes even for day trips. You can fly from Dublin to London in 1 hour. And as a result, the flight connection between Dublin and London is one of the busiest in the world. I think at one point it was the second busiest flight route in the world, with some 25,000 people flying over and back every day. As a result of this level of travel, there will be a pent-up demand among potential tourists. And that means there will be lots of people who have wanted to travel for a long time that will be frustrated and restricted in their movements, but will now be really enthusiastic to start traveling again. When people do travel, they will find their travel experiences to be really valuable. They'll cherish them, and it will be a very highly desirable commodity as the world reopens. I would expect, therefore, that when the tourism industry does begin to reopen, that there will be some very interesting pricing models with the airlines. It will be interesting to see if they try to fill all seats with budget flights, or if they will be more conservative and initially target tourists that are willing to spend higher prices. The seventh reason that I expect the tourism industry to be going through a really interesting and strong period over the next 10 to 20 years is a simple demographic reason. We currently have around, I think the graph here says 6 billion people in the year 2000. I think we're something around 7-8 billion people at the moment, and expected to go to 9 billion people by 2050. This figure is a significant growth from the 2.5 billion people that lived 100 years prior to that in 1950. So the very simple reason that we will have more consumers, because we will simply have more people in the world, means there will be more demand for tourism. There is also a very interesting phenomenon happening in the world where there is increased leisure time. It might not feel like that very often, but there is increased leisure time over what we had maybe 50 years ago or 100 years ago. We have stronger trade unions. We have more automated processes at work. We have increased availability of budget airlines and so on. And as a result of this increased availability of supply of tourism opportunities and demand for them from more consumers, I think it's a very safe bet to say that we will have a stronger tourism economy over the next 30 or 40 years than is currently predicted by many people in the media. Another thing to consider is that the population in the world is aging. There are more people in the world at the moment who are retired than there has ever been in the past. And all of these retirees, many of them in many countries have disposable incomes and a high proportion of free leisure time available to spend. And as a result, there will be an increase in international arrivals, I would predict, from this. Reason 8 is that we live in a very interconnected world. I think tourism will recover partly because people travel now, not just because they want to, but because they have to. So people travel for education, they travel for business, they travel for social connections and leisure. And much of this travel, it's not the typical sun resort holiday of the past. It's quite often travel because they have to. So for example, in summertime this year, I traveled to Poland. My wife is from Poland, and we traveled there and spent some time with her family. I love going to Poland. It's one of my favorite countries to visit, and the Polish people are great. They're fantastic hosts. However, I traveled primarily this year because we felt we had to do it to see her parents. We wanted to do it, of course, but we were a little bit hesitant because of the health pandemic. So I think at some point in the future, in the very near future, actually, for many people, travel will become a choice. It won't just be, it will be a necessity. It won't just be an option that they can decide to go or not. People will move because they have to, and that will happen sooner than we think. Moving to reason 9, and this is a really interesting one. This is a graph produced by the World Travel and Tourism Council, which shows global economic dependence on tourism. So I'll just highlight a few regions here and tell you what the figures mean. So in Europe, where I am, we have a little figure over there that says 2.4. So that 2.4 is a percentage increase of GDP in 2019 over 2018. And then on the left, you can see that in the graph or in the text in the box at the side of the table, you can see that tourism was worth $2.0 trillion to the European economy. And you can see then 9.1 is a percentage of GDP. So 9% of Europe's economy comes from tourism. You can see in Southern Asia, the tourism industry is worth some 230 billion euro or dollars. And you can see it's worth some 6.6% of GDP. You can see there in, say, where will I look at now? The Middle East, GDP of 8.6% and $245 billion with a growth of 5% this year. All of these figures show you that tourism is worth a significant amount of the global economy. I think if you did an average of those figures, you'd probably be 8, 9, 10%, somewhere around there. And that figure is extraordinarily high. It's worth around 10% of the world's jobs, and it touches, as you can see, every corner of the world. It's simply too big to fail, is my point with this reason 9. So many countries depend economically on tourism that governments won't have a way to replace that income, and they will do everything they can to ensure that the tourism industry recovers, because without it, there would be a significant loss in revenue for them. Reason 10 is about pricing and revenue. And my belief here is that the pricing strategies of the industry will facilitate recovery. What I mean by that is that the industry is able to use a very dynamic and rapid responding pricing model. So, for example, if manufacturing is hit by a crisis, it's not feasible often for the manufacturing industry to simply lower the cost of the product to a point where consumers will purchase it again. It is possible to do that in tourism, and it's done very frequently. So, for example, our local airline here, Ryanair, which is one of the biggest airlines in Europe, has a very dynamic pricing model. And at the moment, if I wanted to, I could probably fly to any European country for around 15 or 20 euro. And the reason for that is because of the collapse, Ryanair has taken the opportunity to try and fill the seats of its plane. So they've rapidly responded by lowering the price. They can use this price to stimulate demand, and I suspect that they will do this probably to normalize flying among consumers again. They will want to get people flying very quickly so that people get used to flying and so that it becomes a very normal thing for them to do again. I would expect this to last for a year or two, and then after this, for the pricing to return to normal. So I would expect to see some short-term pricing opportunities to stimulate demand. Okay, so those are the 10 reasons I think that the tourism industry will recover. Now, because it's your first day, I thought it would be appropriate, and perhaps Dr. Samir can tell me if it's inappropriate, but I thought it would be appropriate to give you 2 very simple pieces of homework. The first piece of homework that I would like to give you is, I would like you to look on the internet in the coming days to find an example of when tourism was affected by a crisis. And what I want you to do is look for a time that tourism responded to that crisis with some innovation. So look for a news article about this. And then after you've read about it, I want you to see if you can find an academic article about the same crisis. The second thing I would like you to do is to look up on the internet to see what is the Indian government and the local tourism authority doing to promote tourism during the pandemic. Are they encouraging domestic tourism, for example? Consider how are they protecting the industry? What sort of things are they doing to help businesses such as attractions and transport and hotels to recover? I think you'll find both of those little tasks quite interesting. For the first one, when you think about a crisis, you could think about an environmental crisis or some political crisis or some maybe healthcare crisis from the past, and see how did it affect tourism and how did the industry respond. For the second one, you could have a look maybe at what are hotels doing at the moment, or what are restaurants doing? How are they encouraging domestic tourism, and what are they doing to restart the industry? And finally, I would like to give you 3 things to remember that I think you should try to do to benefit your careers over the next few years. The first one is the people who succeed in tourism are those who are very passionate for the industry, the people who explore and create and innovate, and the people who you can just see when you meet them in the tourism industry that there's a vibrancy and a passion about them. And I'd like you to try and develop this passion. So get really interested in the whole travel and tourism and hospitality industry. And if you succeed with developing this passion, it will be a huge bonus for you when you go to work in the industry. The second thing I want you to develop is a really good work ethic. I want you to study as directed by your lecturers, to read lots of academic material, and to work really hard on your assessments and on any work placement opportunities that you have in the coming years. Work ethic is crucial in the tourism industry. It's just so important to be a good worker, to be available and to be dedicated to each task, and do every task really thoroughly and really well. The tourism industry ultimately hires people, and if you have those 2 things, a good work ethic and passion, you will be very valuable as an employee. And the third thing I want you to do is to take advantage of any opportunities that are presented to you in the coming years. So build your CV, develop profiles on LinkedIn and on social media that are professional and beneficial to you. Take extra certificates, work on your language skills, gather experiences and meet people in hotels and restaurants, and develop your network so that when you go to work in the industry, not only will you have your excellent degree, but you will also have lots of additional experiences which will help you at interview stage or in job applications, and also when you are working to gain promotions. So if you have those 3 things, passion, a work ethic, and an interesting and varied CV, you will really succeed and do really well in the coming years. And I think despite the big pandemic at the moment, it's a really exciting time to join the tourism industry because of the opportunities that will be presented, as I set out in my 10 reasons there. So with that's all from me. I'll pass back to, I think, Dr. Samir now. And you might take over and I can talk more or do questions or whatever you would prefer now.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Tony Johnston. It was wonderful. I think I can't even begin to tell you how the students, how much they would benefit from this, and even faculty members who are attending it. I think we've got a great perspective as well. So wonderful. Thank you so much. It is wonderful to see such a positive perspective. Thank you for sharing your reasons. And we so believe that it's such a resilient industry and we will bounce back. But your examples that you shared and your keen eye and perspective have really been very enriching even for us. So thank you so much. And I'd like to reiterate the 3 takeaways for the students at the end again that Dr. Tony said. How can I request Piyush and others to promote? Yeah, sorry. So again, I would like to reiterate how Dr. Tony has advised all of us students to develop your passion, work on your CV really, gather experiences, network, and also develop a great work ethic. I think these three really sum up beautifully what you should look at in the next 3 years for a very successful career. So great, thank you so much. We can open the floor for questions. And while the questions are coming in, I would like Dr. Sonali Jadhav to quickly mention how we are associated with Athlon and Ireland, and what a great opportunity it is because of the MOU that we have with you. So over to you, ma'am.
Yes. About a year and a half back, AISSMS College of Hotel Management has signed an MOU with Athlon University of Technology and Athlon Institute of Technology. And this MOU is for various reasons. It is for staff exchange, it is for student exchange, it is for students progression, which means that after you pass out from our college, if you want to do your degree there, by doing one more year, you get a degree from Ireland. So they recognize the quality of education that we give. And based on that, we have mapped and found out equivalences. And you can go on to the 4th year directly at Athlon. Or if you want to do a master's program, because of the MOU, it is far easier for our students because they know the quality of the students that we have, and getting admission becomes easier because of the partnership we have signed. And as far as the staff exchange is concerned, we have had one staff who went there for 4 weeks and he taught in that university and came back. And then we have had a couple of their faculty members who came and gave lectures here. We've also had a couple of students who visited for the last 2 years. They visited our college and we did a short course for them, and they also participated in some of the events that we had. So generally, this association has been almost 2 years now and doing wonderfully well. And like we've invited Tony to come and give a lecture, we've also had a few of our faculty members, one faculty member who's gone there and given lectures, taken practicals, and who's also doing joint research with the institute. So thank you, Tony, once again for taking time out and being with us this afternoon.
You're very welcome. Thanks again for the invitation.
Great. Thank you. So we have Milind here. Milind, would you like to quickly, in a minute, say hi to Tony and share your Ireland experience?
And if people can see you, then they will know who Dr. Milind Peshwe is.
Ma'am, actually, there's some bandwidth issue.
Right. Sure.
Good afternoon, Dr. Tony. How are you doing?
I'm great, thanks, Dr. Milind. Are you well?
Nice to see you after a long time. Yeah, I would just like to share a little bit of experiences that I had in Ireland with AIT. I mean, firstly, I would thank Dr. Sonali Jadhav for giving me this opportunity to visit AIT and probably take this MOU further. And it was a great experience for me. I think there are a lot of things which are quite in common between AIT and AISSMS. The first and foremost is that our focus on quality education. I mean, that is one thing which is a very distinguishing factor common between both of us. You know, we both are very much quality conscious, and we are student-centric education institutes. So that is the first thing which I saw. It was a great pleasure interacting with the students there. I mean, students all across the globe are same. I mean, they are in the thrust of education and they want good teachers, good mentors to mentor them for education. So I could see even that in common. I'm sure a lot of our faculty members and your faculty members would share a lot of things in common. But one common thing which I found in Tony is his aptitude towards research. I mean, he is a very much research-oriented person. And whatever interactions I've had with him, we have had great detailed interactions on research and how we could take this further into a joint research. That reminds me, Tony, that we are going to work on some joint research paper.
We are,
we will
Milind,
do it
definitely.
eventually,
Very soon.
Yeah, once we are out of this pandemic situation and situations seems to be normalized, we could do that. Of course, this opportunity also could not be lost because we can very well do it on an online mode. So that we will resume from now onwards with this particular thing, and hope to see a lot many faculty members from your college come over to our college, and we will have this exchange program further taken to our students. So thank you so much, Tony, and nice to see you after a long time. Thank you.
You too. Take care.
Thanks, Milind. So now I would request Chavi to connect, and I think his presentation and his perspective just speaks volumes of his qualification and professional journey. But nonetheless, can we just tell students about his journey quickly? Over to you, Chavi.
No, still can't.
No, Chavi, we can't hear you. Sarika, can you take over?
Thank you, Dr. Sameer. So it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Tony. First of all, thank you, Dr. Tony, for the wonderful presentation that you gave and the insights that you shared with our students. It's my pleasure to introduce you. Dr. Tony is the head of the Department of Hospitality, Tourism and Leisure in Athlone Institute of Technology, which is in Ireland. Prior to joining the AIT, which is Athlone Institute of Technology, Dr. Tony was employed as a senior lecturer in tourism, which is in University of Derby. Also a lecturer in development geography, King's College, which is in London, and a lecturer in adventure tourism management, University of the Highland and Island, which is in the UK. Dr. Tony has completed a BA Honours in Business with Entrepreneurship in the University of Ulster in 2003, and MLit in Geography in the National University of Ireland, Galway in 2005. And he also holds a PhD in Geography from the National University of Ireland, Galway, which is in 2011. Dr. Tony's research interests are in dark tourism, tourism and sustainability, and tourism after conflicts and disasters. So that's all from my side for Dr. Tony.
Thank you, Sarika. Now we'll throw the floor open for questions. Students, here's your opportunity. Last 5 minutes that we have, you can ask questions to Dr. Tony Johnston. And of course, not to forget the wonderful homework that he's given us. Thank you for that as well. Those are really nice assignments. Thanks. Yes, over to you, students. Anybody who would like to ask any question can either type it in the chat box or can unmute himself or herself and ask the question.
I think things are just sinking in. They joined yesterday, so
yes, I know.
They're still trying to acclimatize to the hospitality.
Of course, nobody wants to ask the first question. That's perfectly understandable. If I might just add at the end that when you begin your degree, it's a really exciting time, and you have lots of different people talking to you in the first few days. Don't worry if you don't understand all of the information now. Just keep it together, and you can look back at it when you need. We have the same challenge every year with our induction. Our students hear about everything from housing to finance to rules to uniforms to academic material, and it's a lot of information to take in. I see I have a question in the text box that says, can I explain a bit by dark tourism? So dark tourism is a form of tourism where tourists visit sites that are primarily associated with death and disaster. And it's some of the world's biggest tourist attractions are quite associated with death. So if you consider, for example,
was York, UK, is it associated with dark tourism? York
is, yeah, the castle in York, yeah, there was some battles there, yeah, it would be.
Also Auschwitz, Dr. Tony?
Yeah,
the Nazi
Auschwitz,
camps.
yeah. Nearly 2 million people a year visit Auschwitz in southern Poland, and it was the site where 1.5 million people were executed in the 1940s. But there's many of these sites all over the world. Like probably the one that's most visible in the media at the moment is the Hiroshima bomb site in Japan. In Hiroshima, where the atom bomb dropped in the 1940s. It was 75 years since this event, just a couple of days ago. And that is a very prominent site with tourists. In India, I'm sure there are many sites from the time of the British Raj and the atrocities over the years. There are various burial sites and religious sites as well in India that would be associated with
Chambal Valley. What is it called? Valley of Chambal, known for comics and things.
Or Jallianwala Bagh would also.
Jallianwala Bagh also, yes.
When people visit these sites, they visit because they want to learn about history, or maybe they're thinking about their own mortality, or maybe some people do it for sensationalist reasons. You know, they have some interest in things that are a bit macabre. So there are lots of reasons why people go to these sites. And they exist on a spectrum. So some of them are fun, if that's the right word. So for example, you might go to a haunted house or a ghost train when you're a child, you know, at a fun fair. But then some of them are very, very serious and very emotional places where serious atrocities happened. And there's a lot of research done about these places. And I've been doing research on them for about 15, 20 years now. And I'm mostly interested in European sites that are associated with battle and with conflict. I see some other questions here. Will I go through them?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so the next one, what should I do to be an air hostess? So the three points that I had at the end of the presentation are really important for any aspect of tourism. You have to have a good work ethic, you have to have a good CV, and you have to have passion. And those qualities are really visible in the airline industry as well. Now, the air hostess industry, it seems very attractive and appealing when you're young. And it is, you know, it's a good job, usually with respectable companies, and you'll get to see the world and you'll meet lots of people and they're interesting and so on. But they're very hard and very difficult jobs, and they're not particularly well paid. They're also a bit challenging when you're a little bit older if you want to have a family life. So what I would recommend for young people who would like to do that is certainly to try it for a few years, but remember that your academic qualification is what will get you into the more highly paid and managerial roles in future, and to keep that in mind. To become an air host or an air hostess, you usually have to take intensive training programs run by the airlines themselves. That's certainly how it works in Europe. It's not particularly an academic qualification. It's more a training program run by the airlines. And when you finish your degree, you might have the opportunity to see one of those advertised. And I would certainly recommend it for a few years, but not for a life job. I think they're challenging later in life when people want to settle down and get married and have children and so on. It's a bit more challenging. The next question there is my journey in hospitality management. So my parents were involved in hospitality management. We own a hospitality business, although they're retiring now. But our hospitality business was a business where we took international students from the United States to Ireland, and we taught them about Irish history, Irish language, and Irish culture. And in that hospitality business, we did everything for those students, from transport to accommodation to attractions and education. And that's where I got into it from. I then matched this with a degree in business and a master's and PhD in geography. But my master's and PhD were focused on tourism geography. So I was looking at development and the impact of tourism on the environment and economy and society and all those things. And that's how I got into tourism, which is obviously very connected to hospitality. What is the secret of successful journey in this field? really the 3 points that I gave at the end, again, not to repeat myself, but the real secret is to be very positive and very passionate about the industry. So, you know, travel lots, get into travel documentaries, read travel books, read about tourism, and watch as much material as you can during this pandemic while you're trapped. And then when you're able to move again, start looking at what's happening in your local tourism industry and your national, and then abroad in future when you can. Develop that passion and then match that with a work ethic. You won't succeed in the tourism industry if you don't work hard. You won't find any hotel managers or head chefs in restaurants or people managing attractions or in transport that are lazy. They all work really hard, you know, and they work really hard because they love it. They're really passionate about it. And the third reason, again, is build interesting things in your CV. You know, learn additional languages, take additional qualifications, do as many of those kind of things as you can that will benefit your CV. The next question, who is my role model? My role model. It's a really good question. I don't know. I don't think I have a role model. One of my favorite people in the tourism industry ever is the author Mark Twain. So Mark Twain was an American author. He wrote lots of famous novels, but he also wrote lots of famous travel books. And actually, many of those travel books, he writes a lot about India. And I'd recommend one called, it's called, I'll have to send you the name of it. It's called, I think, Crossing the Equator or Traveling the Equator or something like that. But he briefly goes through India and he writes a few chapters in the book about his travels in India and his encounters with different religious tourists and pilgrimages and different gods and so on. And he's one of the people that really inspired me to work in tourism. Could I recommend any certificates useful for the industry? Yes, at entry level, there are lots of good certificates you can get. Things that are very important for the industry at the moment is good IT skills. So make sure you dedicate yourself to your IT classes. And if you have opportunity to take any of the free certificates that are run by Google or by any of the major IT companies, then I would recommend those. They're useful. Learn how to design a website if you can. I would also recommend, if you can, to focus very much on food safety and food hygiene. That's very critical for the tourism industry at the moment. Tourists need to be reassured, particularly during this pandemic, about good food hygiene. So if you can do any additional ones there, that's good. I also always recommend to our students that if they can ever do first aid, that's very useful. First aid so that they can assist people and minor injuries, cuts and burns and bruises and bumps and things like that. It's very beneficial in the hospitality industry to be able to do that, because you will have guests and staff that will be injured at certain times. So you have 3 recommendations there. If you can get IT, food safety and first aid, that will be very beneficial. Okay, next one. Which country would be best for MBA in hospitality after our graduation, Australia or Canada? I'm going to say Ireland would be best for sure. I have actually not been to Australia or Canada. I mean, they're both great countries with exceptional standards in education, and I'm sure both would be very good. There's never an answer that's as simple as one is better than the other. Both will offer different experiences. You know, there are French-speaking universities in Canada. You could go to Canada and learn French, but equally in Australia, there's some very interesting things happening there in relation to contact with Indigenous people and interesting questions around tourism and climate and tourism and environment. Actually, one thing I'd love to do some research on in future is the impact of environmental challenges in Australia for tourism. They've had huge problems with forest fires and climate change in the last few years. Okay, next questions. Could I suggest some books about hospitality management. Yes. Rather than me answer that question now, what I would do is send you a short list, and I might email that to Dr. Samir later, and perhaps you could share it with the students. But I can recommend some
Absolutely.
books, maybe some non-academic books. You'll read lots of academic books, I'm sure, from your study list. But I can send some that would be about maybe they might be more travel books, or might be more written for popular audiences that you might find interesting, including some that have strong references to India. I can think of a few off the top of my head. Okay, I think that's all the questions I have there, is it?
Yes, for now.
They're great questions. I didn't expect questions like that.
I think they really were completely involved in the session, and that just shows in the questions.
I think I like the question about the MBA to study in Australia or Canada. I think you're only starting out in your degree now. You know, focus on your degree for now, and you can think about your postgraduate qualification in later years. But I think one of the big questions that you should have is, how can I build my CV? How can I get different experiences? And you'll have heard on my CV there that I studied in 2 different universities, and I've now worked in 3 different countries, and I've been lucky in my career. I've visited 33 different countries in the past 20 years. So I do try to travel a lot and collect experiences that will benefit me and also help my CV, and that I can bring back to education. So do try and think of that over the coming years. Sir, how can we serve our country while working in this field? Well, tourism is a really important industry for representing your country. When you work in the tourism industry, you are representing India to international tourists, and you become the face of India when you deal with people who are visiting your country. I think it's one of the best ways that you could possibly serve your country is to be passionate and to smile and to promote your country, to be friendly and to be articulate and professional. And if you do those things, and if you bring that personality to international tourists, you'll feel very proud of India, and India will feel very proud of you. And the tourist will leave with a great impression of the people that they met. And that's a really great way to serve the country. The next question, what are the profits of doing career in tourism? Well, the profits are both personal development and financial. And the personal development profits are that it's really rewarding. People who work in tourism are generally very hardworking, but they're really happy. They feel really positive. They enjoy dealing with people, and they enjoy doing work. So from a personal development perspective, it's really profitable. From a financial perspective, it's not a particularly lucrative or well-paid career in the early stages. So the first few jobs that you have in tourism, maybe if you're a waitress or a waiter or a bar person, or working in accommodation or something like this in a hotel, they're not particularly well paid. But when you start to go up through the ranks, maybe if you're a junior supervisor or an assistant manager, and then later in your life when you get into management posts, financially it's very profitable. They're quite well paid jobs. Particularly in international hotel chains, they can be very well paid. And in certain countries, they're extremely well paid. I'm often shocked when I go to Dubai, just how well paid people working in the hotel industry are. And of course, many of them are from your country, and many are also from Ireland. It can be very, very profitable and well paid industry in certain sectors, particularly in the luxury tourism sector. So if you're very professional and you're very polished and very articulate, and you'd like to go work in that field, it can be a very, very profitable and well-paid industry. Okay, thank you so much for the questions. Are there any more questions?
Students, this is the last call for questions. I think you've asked some wonderful questions already. So I take this opportunity on behalf of AISSMS College of Hotel Management, Pune. I take this opportunity to thank you, Dr. Tony Johnston, for taking time out and despite your vacation and summer break, coming over and meeting our first year students online and really inspiring them and inspiring the faculty members like me who are also attending. Much appreciated, really. Yeah, so some students are thanking you also in the chat box. I thought there's another question. So much appreciated, and thank you very much, and have a wonderful day and holiday.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and I look forward to seeing you again soon online and hopefully very soon in person. I do plan to come to visit as soon as I can once the pandemic has passed.
Yes, we all hope and pray it's sooner than later.
Yeah.
So, thank
Take
you,
care,
thank you,
everybody.
ma'am. Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Bye
Tony.
now. Thank you.
Thank you, team. Thank you. All right, students. So thank you for your questions and time. And I'll see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock for day 3 of the orientation program. Have a pleasant evening ahead. Thank you.